There's also many challenges in being a priest that are realistic, but there are ways in which we're called to grow. Some of the biggest challenges of being a priest, one would be time. How much time we have to be able to fulfill all the different roles and responsibilities that people desire of their priests, to be present to people. It is extremely important as a priest that you are organized, that you structure your time, and that's going to make you the most effective and efficient in being able to minister to God's people and be able to truly offer the best quality ministry and service to God's people. It's also a challenge as a priest at times to work with difficult personalities. So there's a lot of people in the church, and they're looking for God's will, and we're called to love them all. But occasionally there'll be people that are really having difficulties, and sometimes they'll project that onto you as an official minister in the church. That's part of the reason that we're called to be well-formed on our own, so that we have a good sense of our own identity, that God loves this person, right? And that we're called to love them as well, even if perhaps it's hard to like them at times. But that's a very small minority of the people that we encounter. It's also difficult sometimes, and one of the challenges of being a priest is being fresh all the time. So we celebrate many masses, and I preach, 400 or 500 times a year. And so to make it look like it's my first time at Mass on the weekend, even after perhaps I've been there 4 or 5 times. So to be able to make our ministry meet the individual person that comes so that they know that we haven't already had a series of prayer services and meetings before we get to that point, and that we're fully present. One of the other challenges of being a priest at times can be living the vows. For some priests, it might be depends on the priest. Some priests will have more difficulties with some vows than others. Some might have difficulty with obedience because they really want their own autonomy and the church that they want to serve in or the location. But most of the time, obedience is a sense of humility and willingness to serve. Second piece is that some priests might have some difficulty with the vow of poverty, or what we call life of simplicity. Primarily because here we live in America, so there's lots of resources around. And as a priest, we're compensated well enough, but without a family and other people that are dependent on our resources, we definitely have enough disposable income. So it's a question then, in turn, how to be a good steward of our resources. And just as I say to our seminarians, I invite them to tithe at least 10% of everything that they have. So for myself as a priest, I tithe, even more than 10% of everything I have to the needs of the church, the parish that pays me, the high school that I serve as a chaplain at. I give to charities within the church, Catholic Relief Services, Catholic Community Services, which helps keep the vow of a life of simplicity in balance. It also can be challenging sometimes too with that vow of poverty or life of simplicity, because people are very generous to priests. Many members in the church, they really love their priests. They want to do good things for them and give us gifts. And so we receive them with warmth and a sense of gratitude, but at the same time, we can't let that go to our heads where we deserve all of these things, because what's our motivation? Love of Christ and the church. And then some priests will have difficulty with the vow of celibacy, and they'll feel lonely. They can be tempted in some of those ways which is a very natural human desire to be in physical relationship with a spouse, but to be able to use that energy that God has given us to be fruitful and creative, and to really use that for the sake of the church. When priests might experience a sense of loneliness, I always will remind them and say, sometimes people that are married also feel lonely, or young adults, right? It's a normal human experience. It's not just only in the priesthood. But part of that vow and promise of celibacy is to make ourselves completely available to Christ and the church, and how we can use the celibacy as a generative type of love, right? We use that energy to do good things for Christ and the church.